What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. I am your sleepless host, Francesca Fiorentini, 7 weeks deep into new motherhood. And wow, it's a whole thing. Babies are forever, guys. That's my fucking intro song to my James Bond. Babies are forever. No. Okay, we'll workshop it. So glad you're here. So glad you pressed play on ye old podcast player. Make sure to give this podcast 5 stars right now. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and on Twitch. What is going on? We have a great show. David Dayen of the American Prospect is here, going to be breaking down what is next for the now GOP-controlled Congress, the House specifically, what's going to happen, what can happen, what are they going to be focusing on for the next 2 years? Is it going to be just Hunter Biden, like forever them being jealous of how he fucks and they don't? So there's that. Also going to talk about the midterms a little bit, get his thoughts. And with us, again, back is Mr. Nato Green, comedian, labor organizer, dad. He will be joining me in January, live in San Francisco, January 22nd, which is a Sunday, back on a Sunday, 8 p.m. for our Sketchfest show. Do not miss it. We'll be there. I think we'll do some stand-up. I don't know which guests we will get, but I will get on that soon. Doopy-doo. Here I go. Doing it. Get tickets, though, for real. It's going to be fun. Hell yeah. So good to have y'all here. Remember that we also do a bonus show after this show. Extra content this time looking at Condoleezza Rice. Yep, she's around. And Hillary Clinton talking to Jon Stewart about U.S. foreign policy, something they know a lot about. Okay. They've got many failed interventions under their belt. So definitely someone you want to talk to. We have a portion of that 45-minute interview, which you got to watch it with us. Nato and I will be there. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Support this show, this independent show that straight up relies on you to support it. You can also support it by tipping us. TBR-Live on Venmo, TBR Live on Cash App. You know what it is. And yeah, good God. So much to talk about. We're going to get into a little bit about what happened in Colorado Springs. We're going to talk about Nancy Pelosi as well. And then finally, if Twitter is dying, y'all, what would your final tweet be? Your very last tweet, your mic drop tweet, your bye-bye, smell you later tweet. I want to know. But until then, let's get into this week. I mean, not the... Until then, this is What Are You Bitching About? So much to bitch about. I mean, just mass shooters targeting the gay community once again. We will talk about that. But for me, there's a couple things. One, very superficially, Argentina lost a game to Saudi Arabia? Excuse me? What? As I was nursing at 5 a.m, I watched back the game, which was on at 1 a.m. here Pacific time. And Argentina right out the gate has 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, but they were offside, and not offside by a lot, offside by a hair. We're millimeters. And now they've got replay in soccer, which I've always hated. I don't like replay. It's not offside. So they didn't get them goals. And then later, Saudi Arabia, which I think is cool. It's cool for a Middle Eastern country to beat Argentina, especially, the powerhouse that is. They fucking scored 2 goals. It ended 2-1. Oh my God, what an upset. And yeah, I will refrain from saying anything more because I do not want to be, chopped up into little pieces by Mohammed bin Salman. But I think we know who was calling the shots on those replays. I think we know that the Crown Prince put his finger on the replay button. Prove me wrong. All right. Whatevs. That's what I'm bitching about. The other thing I'm bitching about is y'all know I gave birth recently. I paid a lot. I pay through the nose for healthcare. I buy on the marketplace, Obamacare, the ACA. Ever heard of it? Because people like me, freelancers, generally do that. And I am getting all these other bills that's like, oh, sorry, your $900 premium didn't cover this at all. And one of the bills that I got was very funny because the same day I got the bill, it was for the epidural, which I eventually did get after, again, medieval pain. And it was like $375. And the same day that I got the bill for the epidural, which is like some third party, like, hey, pain relief anesthesiologist, we're going to charge. It was ridiculous, right? I got a middle class stimulus check from Gavin Newsom from California, right? The state was like, here's $350 for you because you're middle class and you're probably struggling in these times. And then at the same time, I was like, oh, here's your fucking medical bill. I hate this country. We cannot get ahead. Why? Medical expenses. That's pretty much the number one reason. I just wanted the $350 to buy, another nursing bra, splurge a little bit. Anyway, I digress, guys. What are you bitching about? Let me know in the comments. And may we welcome to the stream for the rest of our show the semi-functional hybrid of comedian, writer, and union organizer, whose second comedy album, the Whiteness album, is out on Blonde Medicine Records, and a clip from which has been going viral. Please welcome Nato Green. Nato, what's up?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing? Good to have you back.
It's good to be back. It's good to see you
Good
and
to see you.
all the Frantifa.
Indeed.
Nato,
yeah. What are you bitching about, friend?
Well, have I bitched about the American healthcare system on here? Have I talked about my battles with Kaiser?
Oh God. I mean, first it takes you like 3 weeks to talk to an actual human.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit weird that Kaiser that someone decided to name a health plan after a failed emperor, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like Kaiser, Kaiser is famously bad, particularly with regard to mental health services. Here's a hot tip for the Horchata Armada. If you happen to have Kaiser as your health insurance company and you would like to see a therapist, you're not going to be able to do it unless you say, I'm considering suicide and I'm hearing voices. So otherwise, like there's a actuary in an office building in downtown Oakland, like on the 17th floor, with a chart of how miserable you have to be before it starts costing them money.
God.
And you can be like, like I tried calling them up once, and they were like, "Are you suicidal? No. Are you addicted to anything? Not really. Or do you hear voices? Are you endangering yourself and others? No. And then they were like, "Well, why are you?
What's wrong with you?
Why are you calling?" And I was like, "I don't know. I have mid-40s man sadness. Like I cry within 90 seconds of any Nick Cave song. Like, what the fuck do you want from me?"
I'm thinking of angrily tweeting at like a random female celebrity.
Yeah, I'm high functioning miserable. Like, can you help with that? And they're like, "Oh, do you want a group?" And it's like, "No, I don't want a fucking group. I want help." And they're like, "Okay, well, we can give you 6 sessions with someone for 30 minutes every 5 weeks. And then you'll spend the first 10 minutes reminding them who you are, 10 minutes talking about your shit, and then 10 minutes begging them to talk to you again."
Oh my God.
So, and
that's within your plan. That's to get something within your plan.
Within your plan. Otherwise, you can go out of network and see someone, but like I was looking for a therapist recently, and they're like, oh yeah, but we charge $300 an hour and we don't take your insurance.
I love this as the beginning to like a hostage action flick, you know? Like, I just want to cry.
I
Like,
just I just want a room where I can cry and someone will listen to me. My wife thinks that like my next album should just be like an hour of material about Kaiser, um, and about like because I must have talked about this on here. You know that I had a kidney stone this year.
yes. No, you haven't talked about it, but everyone I'm sure is excited to hear
I had
every
a kidney
last
stone,
detail.
and I called Kaiser, and they were like, earlier, like I was in horrible pain. I was going to the bathroom constantly. I wasn't sleeping, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can get you an appointment next week." Um, and they're like, what is your problem? And I was like, my dick hurts. Um,
They're like,
and
does your dick want to harm you or
right,
anyone else?
is your dick a threat to itself or someone else?
Does your dick have suicidal ideation?
Yeah. Does your dick have a plan? And and then they were like, I was like, I can't wait 6 days. Like I need relief right now. I'm not sleeping. And they're like, do you want a video appointment? And I'm like, is
Jesus
this
Christ.
like who's paying
With
who in this deal? Like, you want a video appointment so a Kaiser clinician can look at my dick? Like, what are we talking about? Uh,
Here's what I learned about Kaiser. As soon as you say you're pregnant, which I feel like you should use, you get all the appointments you want. Kaiser, you'll be like, can I get an appointment? They're like, ooh, yeah, 8 to 10 months, maybe. At least down here, it's awful here in Southern California. But as soon as I said I was pregnant, they were like, yep, we got you. Boop, 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 boop. And they just lined up my appointments. And then I bounced on Kaiser because I was like, I do not trust you motherfuckers to like birth my child.
totally.
So
So
totes.
totes. So that's what I'm bitching about is once again, and as always, fuck Kaiser.
Fuck Kaiser. Medicare for all, baby. Depose the Kaiser. Overthrow it.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, periodically we should just be bitching about the healthcare system. I'm surprised we haven't done this before.
I mean, occasionally, like all the, there. I mean, at some maybe I should just do it. But like comedians are always posting these crowd work videos. That it's like like where are you from? And, it's like someone should just do a crowd work video that's all like healthcare horror stories.
Yeah, which ailment are you not going in
Right.
to see anyone
Yeah.
about?
How much? Why do you have medical debt?
Yeah, exactly. I think I might have torn my ACL, my straight up knee in labor. Like I've got like a crazy ligament pain. I don't think it's the ACL, but it's like it's fucked up, and I'm not going in to see nobody. Anyway, welcome to America,
Yeah.
USA, USA. All right, let's get into the week.
Oh
A
wait,
few things.
I didn't even tell you my latest health news. As long as we're talking about the collapse of American democracy and also my body, the Kaiser told
Which is like American democracy
is
in
like
decay.
in decay and probably hairier than it should be. Is that I have arthritis in my foot, so it's dumb. It's so dumb. And so, but it means that
Do
I
you have
get
to wear
like,
those shoes? You get to wear those shoes with like the really big seams that sort of go up on the ends?
no, they just gave me like a carbonite plate to put in my shoe to balance out my foot or something.
Carbonite.
I don't know, man. All right, let's go on.
Okay.
I covered it.
All right. These are the jokes that I wrote.
This was more cathartic than actually Kaiser Mental Health Services.
I'm glad, NATO. Everyone, give NATO some love.
Yeah.
The World Cup kicked off in Qatar, the first time the cup has been held in the Middle East, which is pretty cool. It's also the first cup that will be held in stadiums that ironically won't serve alcohol, but will encourage homophobic chants. Which is a first. Hey, you can't let people get too drunk and forget how the tune goes, their favorite homophobic Anyway, the crypto exchange FTX has filed for bankruptcy, owing $8 billion, even though as recently as September, it was worth $32 billion. Apparently, it was built on a mountain of lies, like most crypto exchanges, by a man named Sam Bankman-Fried, who used some of the money to create a super PAC to donate to Democrats and ran the exchange out of the Bahamas with a group of MIT grads who were all sleeping with one another. This story has all the three things I don't think should exist and never want explained to me: crypto, super PACs, and polycules. Hate them. Get rid of them. Theranos grifter Elizabeth Holmes.
I might be okay with polycules.
Yeah, but if it comes with a crypto, would you be okay
then I'm
with
out.
if they're part of a crypto? Hell no. An MIT polycule?
Okay.
Gross.
Francesca.
No.
Fuck, marry, kill. Crypto super PACs polycules.
Ooh. I mean, you can't really marry a polycule, or can you? I don't know. I mean, I would kill super PACs. I would fuck crypto, and I think I would marry a polycule. I think that's the only answer.
That's right.
Theranos grifter Elizabeth Holmes gets 11 years in prison. And I don't know, everyone's mad, but I just think she really broke the glass ceiling for female felons in STEM. She's a feminist and a felon icon, all right? She's a felonist.
Can someone make the inmate buddy comedy of Elizabeth Holmes and Ghislaine Maxwell?
It's like Shawshank, but
yeah, stir crazy, but with them.
They're slowly digging a tunnel behind, I don't know, out of like tampons.
Ugh.
Amazing. In a rambling yet sober speech, Donald Trump announced he's once again running for president in the year 2024, but Ivanka Trump says she's not going to get involved in politics and will choose to focus on, quote, raising her young children. And by raising, she means yelling at the three nannies who take turns caring for them, while she thinks about running for office herself one day or getting a reality show deal with Bravo, or both. Depends, whichever one pays her more. And finally, Elon Musk has let both Kanye West and Donald Trump back onto Twitter. And I think we're all wondering, if Twitter is so strapped for cash, why is he bringing back the hate for free? White nationalists should have to pay, all right? $50 to use the N-word, $75 to do an anti-Semitism, $100 to DM a female human, and you will make money in no time. That's it. Solved. Fucking solved.
Isn't it upsetting to find out that you're a better capitalist than the capitalists?
Right? By the way, that last one was the producer Paige's idea. She was like, he should just charge people to like DM women. Do you know how much money you would make? Yeah. All the people sliding into like AOC's DMs. There could be a cut. It'd be like 50 for Elon, 50 for AOC, 50%. Anyway. Let's get into this week. Oh my God, it's already 1:20. I'm like, let's do a shorter show. Never gonna happen. All right. This is, for everything else, this is the week where. Another hate-filled mass shooting happened over the weekend, this time in Colorado Springs at a nightclub, a gay nightclub called Club Q. 22-year-old with an AR-15 entered the club and opened fire, shooting and killing 5 people and injuring 18 more. He would have killed more people. Yes, of course it's a he. Sorry, I didn't mean to bury that. That's okay. He would have killed more people, but 2 jumped on top of the shooter. One was an Iraq War veteran who was there watching a drag show with his family, who held the shooter down and kept punching him with his own gun. And another was a trans woman who stomped on the gunman with her heels, which is amazing. I love this. It is both sad, but also incredible. As Dan Savage put it on Twitter, 2 queers did what 60 cops in Uvalde couldn't and subdued a gunman. But it is incredibly heartbreaking. Once again, we have to deal with this shit. This community is bearing the brunt of the hate speech that the GOP is fueling. One of the people killed was Daniel Aston, who was, sorry, before I bring it up, he was one of the bartender, like the bar managers. And Daniel Aston was 4 years old when he told his mother he was a boy. And it was another decade before he came out as transgender. His mother told the newspaper he thought himself bashful, but that wasn't the case. She said he never knew a stranger, even as a kid. So basically was incredibly outgoing. But I just think it's so fitting that we're in a time when the right is freaking out about giving hormones to minors, trans kids. And they're anti-trans anyway, but especially obsessed with being a kid and feeling like you're living in a different body or that you are a different gender. And there you have it. This man was killed, and he came out to his mom as a boy at 4 years old. And actually, he moved back to Colorado Springs. He was living away from them, his family, his parents, but moved back because he wanted to be closer to them. And he was one of the 5 people who was killed. Anyway, I don't want to cry right now, but I just thought that was really important to mention. And Aaron Reed, who we had on the show, who tracks a lot of anti-trans bills and just does incredible work around this, quote tweeted something that Daniel actually posted about Club Q and how important it was to the community. And she writes, devastating. I've been holding off on posting this until it was confirmed by a major news source. It's now confirmed by ABC. Daniel Aston, transgender man, was one of the victims. He once tweeted about how patrons at Club Q would tell him, quote, "You make me feel safe." And that tweet was from January of this year. Every single goddamn time, I even have the slightest thought of leaving Club Q, someone comes up and tells me, quote, "You're the reason I love this bar," or "You and Derek make me feel so safe and welcome here." Derek was a bartender who also was murdered in this spree. There's more to say on how the hell this happened, but Nato, maybe just your thoughts.
I mean, the like, it's, how sometimes we talk about how, like, the people closest to the pain have to be closest to the solution. And like, it's just, the LGBTQ community, like, for decades has been, is sort of like is like leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else in terms of thinking about, like, not everyone else obviously, but like a lot, there's just like a lot of you know liberals who were like, like, upset about, like, America's lurching to the right in the Supreme Court or whatever, and I'm moving to Canada, and meanwhile, like, gay people are like, like, literally fighting for their right to party, like
Mm-hmm.
that, that, and like figuring out how to, like, be fabulous and, like, dance at the club, and
Mm-hmm.
will, like, beat the shit out of someone who tries to get that between them and a heartbeat. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's like,
Yes.
I did not put on this feather boa tonight for nothing. How dare
Yep.
you? Like, it's just like, it's just amazing. I mean, and it's not new. Like, that goes back to Stonewall.
Yes.
And the
Which
Compton,
effectively was the same thing, right?
it
The
was the
right to
same
party.
thing. The Compton cafeteria riots in San Francisco were the same thing, and and so, like, when, in my darkest hours, when I get scared and manage my anxiety by compulsively looking at cheap real estate in rural Spain, which is what I've been doing lately, is like, maybe I should move
Uh,
to Galicia. And
you and me both, dude. Let's go.
yeah,
Anyway,
let's buy like
I love
a,
how you were like, these liberals who just want to like move to Canada, and then you're like, and then I'm looking into buying
yeah,
land in Spain.
and then I want to buy land in Spain. I just want, like, a medieval stone house with a wine cellar, and like a meadow of
But
some
you
sort.
go fight, gays. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, please.
gaze, you take it from here. I'm gonna go to Asturias, and and I just need to reflect.
NATO telling on himself.
Yeah.
But
So,
yes,
you
you
know,
look to the people you've left behind and say, "Thank you for leading the charge."
thank you for leading the charge, and so, and also, like, it's just, like, I'm a parent of queer kids, and so, you know there's a way that like which means that my family is a queer family, and thinking
Yeah.
about, it's like, obviously, like, I've had gay people in my life my whole life, but thinking about my kids and how they go through the world and what they're going to have to fight for.
Yeah.
It's just like, uh uh and so then, I mean, not to step on stuff that we may be talking about later, but then, for Hillary Clinton to go to the Financial Times and be like, maybe we shouldn't be talking about pronouns so much, all this trans stuff is a distraction from the real issues people care about. It's like, go fuck yourself, lady.
Absolutely.
So
Well, and we're going to talk about Pelosi in a second, who I think has echoed a lot of that. I just, I want to just say that, like, this story, the way it broke down, it just flies in the face of every bullshit narrative the right has been trying to spin about, and we know this about the gay community, about trans people, about everything, which is effectively, they're in our faces and converting our kids. No, they're in a strip mall, in a bar, in a club, and they still get targeted because that's number one, right? And it's always been the case in the gay community, the LGBTQ plus community. Number two, drag shows are not family things. That fucking Iraq war veteran was with his family. His daughter and his daughter's boyfriend were there. His daughter's boyfriend was murdered. So no, it is a family thing to go to a drag show. Absolutely, it is. And also the idea that, like, somehow you stand with vets, you fucking care about that. No, a vet had to fucking stand up and be the one to tackle this guy. He wasn't a current cop. So, like, it just implodes every single narrative they've been spinning, and of course the people spinning it are YouTube accounts, Twitter accounts like Libs of TikTok, which, if you don't know, is basically an account run by a person named I don't give a shit what her name is, but it's Chaya Raychick is her name, and has been peddling all kinds of hateful stuff against the trans community, LGBTQ plus community. This is a day after the Colorado Springs shooting, and she's tweeting out via Libs of TikTok about another drag show and performance that's happening called the Dragutante, and she's upset about it. And basically calling out the representatives in Colorado, in the state of Colorado, saying, "Hey, you need to do something about this because they're encouraging children to dress in drag. Oh my God, look at this!" This is a day after in Colorado, 5 people were murdered in a club. So it doesn't stop, and we all know. Let's just this is just a quick rundown. A donut shop in Tulsa, Oklahoma last month was attacked twice. Once the Molotov cocktail after hosting an art show run by drag queens. Over the summer, protesters surrounded a gay bar that held drag events in Dallas, Texas, accusing the LGBTQ community of grooming children. Mayor Jacques Gilbert canceled a drag queen story hour after violent threats. Meanwhile, members of the Proud Boys have attempted to storm restaurants holding drag shows in Arlington, Texas, and Woodland, California. It goes on. And did this bear out as a fucking issue people voted on in the midterms? No. But what has it done? Oh, it's radicalized the crazies that are already part of the GOP base. It didn't necessarily increase the number of voters. It didn't speak to moderate voters. No, it just further radicalized the crazies who were already armed to actually fucking once again target and brutalize the gay community. Over and over and over and over again. They're not expanding their base. They're, again, if I just said this, radicalizing the crazy base they already have to violence. Anywho.
I mean, it's well, and it's not just the right wing is doing it. It's like, then when people talk about, Chappelle's fixation on trans people being just jokes, it's like, you can't credibly argue that that's not related. It's all one cultural soup,
I very much agree with that. Especially because Dave Chappelle, I watched his last special. I forced myself to watch it. He doesn't say their jokes. He straight up stops down and he's like, no, I'm seriously asking. We have to so-called fix this and figure this out. He doesn't couch it in jokes. He couches it in just straight up transphobia. Anyway, we got to move on. We got to talk about Nancy Pelosi. With Democrats losing the House, Majority Speaker Nancy Pelosi is stepping down as Speaker. And because her husband got hit with a hammer, we have to all be extra nice about her record. But yeah, let's look at it. Pelosi was elected House Minority Whip in 2001, the first woman to do so in U.S. history. A year later, she was House Minority Leader, which again was a historic accomplishment. She became the first Speaker of the House in 2007 and then assumed the position again in 2019. Pretty much one of the most powerful women in American politics to date, and an Italian American. And let me say, as a half Italian American, brava. Very proud of just that one piece. What I'm not so proud about is some of her checkered record, and we can go into it, but things that stand out to me as someone who protested the war in Iraq and did not enjoy 8 years of the Bush coup. Pelosi was very much kind of by Bush's side, obviously not in the same party, but going along with this everything, the consensus of war at the time, refused to impeach George W. Bush or at all look into war crimes, anything like that, impeach him over the false pretenses for invading Iraq. None of that, refused to do that. Has spent a lot of time fighting the left, honestly. Now that the squad is a thing, and since 2018, we see a progressive upstart in Congress. She's done things like, let's just look at it. This was actually a piece in The Guardian that broke it down. She's never been subtle about her disdain for left-leaning wing of the Democratic Party, once scoffed that a glass of water could have won Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's seat. Does she mean like a tall drink of water? She condescendingly described the Green New Deal as the Green Dream or whatever they call it. She dismissed the ever-growing squad as like 5 people. Now some imaginative new insults have come out. Pelosi once mocked the squad's purity politics using a baby voice, according to a new book by Susan Paige, Madam Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Lessons of Power. She said, some people come to Congress to pose for holy pictures. And she changed her voice and mimicked a child trying to make a solemn show of piety. See how perfect I am and how pure? There she is. I will give her credit and say that I think under Trump, she was better than she was under Bush. I think it's like, how could you not stand up a little bit? There was some strong arming there. There was some master legislating. But I'm not going to miss her. And she's still going to run for re-election, right? She's still going to try and rep San Francisco. Nato? You've spent some time protesting Pelosi in her own office.
Yeah, yes, I did, and I have heard reports that her staff are still mad about it. I don't know, folks. I mean, there was in the time between the Trump election in 2016, people started to feel inspired again around the Women's March, but there was that window between Election Day and the Women's March where people were like despondent, and we were worried that the Democrats were going to be completely craven and cowardly. And so I and a handful of other activists decided on a stunt to go deliver Nancy Pelosi a spine, and we built a giant 7-foot long tall spine out of PVC piping and foam core.
Amazing.
And it made the news, and the staff did not appreciate it. They didn't appreciate the joke. So
and I just want to say, interestingly, after Hillary lost, Pelosi was on record saying Clinton leaned in too hard to being a woman, that she shouldn't have done that. And once again reiterated that abortion rights are not a litmus test for voting Democrat and for being a Democrat. And they shouldn't be. This is Nancy. I mean, again, this, whatever.
After the Supreme Court, was it after the Supreme? Well, at the same time, David will have the exact chronology.
Yes.
That the Supreme Court was repealing Roe versus Wade. She was still campaigning for Henry Cuellar, the last pro-life Democrat in Congress.
Thank you.
Against a more progressive challenger in Texas. So it's like, and and then like Christine Pelosi, her daughter, who is trying to set herself up to run for the seat, was like tweeting, denouncing, Bernie people, being like, "We told you, we warned you. Why didn't you, whatever, to do something about this?" And then, so
Wait, Christina's positioning herself to run for the seat?
yeah,
Oh,
she
fucking
wants the
hell.
dynastic line.
Good God.
So
Inheriting the fridge full of ice cream is not enough. She's got to inherit the seat as well.
yeah,
It's some Game of Thrones up on Pacific Impact Heights, man. It's
Impact Heights, right? Which means that I mean, this is probably too inside for most Bitchuation Room listeners, but it's entirely possible that the progressive candidate for that seat will be Scott Wiener.
interesting.
So, who's currently our state senator?
There was someone else who ran for that seat. I can't remember who. Not a memorable campaign, really.
We're not going to talk
fizzled.
about that. Yeah,
fucking fizzled out. Like it wasn't serious or
we don't talk
stood
about
a chance or was sort of well run at all. Anywho, that person loves to troll me. That's why I'm throwing shade. Yeah, I want to bring in.
He's busy reviving his career as a DJ.
No, I'm sorry. A slam poet brochure please. You gotta. It's the only way to mac on the commie honeys. Now it seems like Hakeem Jeffries will be the anointed next speaker should the Democrats regain the House. And Hakeem Jeffries is definitely a centrist corporate Democrat, but I'm interested whether, he'll get it, he'll get the votes, and whether what that will mean. And I kind of want to bring into this discussion our guest for the Sitch, executive editor of the American Prospect, and the author of Monopolize Life in the Age of Corporate Power, which came out in 2020. Everyone needs to get that. And he was the winner of the 2021 Hillman Prize for Excellence in Magazine Journalism. David Dayen, welcome to the Bitchuation Room.
Thanks. Last time I was here, I was sitting right next to you, actually.
I know.
In your palatial estate. Where did you get a champagne grape orchard?
Wow. Keep it fucking down, dude. Why?
David, she's Italian. It's Prosecco.
That is true. It is
Prosecco, yeah. I would really like a Abruzzo. How do you make Abruzzo, dude? Is Abruzzo
the... I gotta get a Montepulciano.
No. Lambrusco. Abruzzo. Yeah, Lambrusco. Fucking love Lambrusco. I haven't had a drink in 9 months. All right. No, I have definitely had a drink in 9 months. David, weigh in here on what's going on in the House in terms of Pelosi.
I'm going to keep bringing it up. David, as the editor of the American Prospect and a former stand-up comedian.
That's right.
Wow. Nato told me this, first of all. What?
You got to check our profile that was in the Columbia Journalism Review, which does go down the lane of my long lamented stand-up career. Yes.
Where were you doing stand-up? In the Bay?
I was. I'd lived there for 4 years, and I did, punchline and comedy. Cobbs? Yeah, did Cobbs.
Did you do Rooster T. Feathers?
What's the one down in Sunnyvale?
Rooster T. Feathers. Yeah, Roosters.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Vacaville was my favorite. I did a show in Vacaville, and I was there with somebody else, and that person did a joke, the punchline of which was about Shakespeare. And somebody got up in the audience and said, "Shakespeare, we're from Vacaville," as if they were cognizant of their own ignorance. It was brilliant.
I feel like Nato gets that response when he does stand up.
Yeah, people yell that at me even when I'm not talking about Shakespeare or in Vacaville. David, didn't you start in Chicago and then move to San Francisco? Because I think Kamau Bell told me about you, and that it sounded like
I knew Kamau back in Chicago. Yeah, we worked. Yeah,
we have a lot more in common than I thought. Then
who knew?
Who knew? And by the way, I've been writing the back page for the American Prospect.
I should say that. Has been fantastic. We've tried to cultivate a little bit of humor on the back page of the print editions of the Prospect, which you can get at prospect.org. And Francesca's done a terrific job there. through
And
the pregnancy and everything. Did not stop.
Exactly.
Did not miss a single.
Oh, David tried to shake me, and then I shook him harder. I shook him harder and was like, "Bitch."
I was trying to be nice in a terrible way.
Literally taking food out of a person's mouth, my baby's mouth,
Child's mouth,
a child's mouth.
which as is my one. Yes.
No, but David, God, we've gotten off track. Let's go back.
Typical liberal.
Note the time. What do you make of Pelosi standing down and Hakeem Jeffries, and I guess what that might mean for the future? And then we'll go on to like this current Congress, because this is sort of the imagined future.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is that in 2018, as a condition for getting the speakership, Pelosi had to commit to only serving for 2 terms. And she did that in writing and before the entire caucus. And everybody just sort of assumed that that didn't mean anything, that she, you know, it was just going to be her decision anyway, no matter what. And so when she finally did step down, I think it was just bowing to reality. Look, for decades here, Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, and James Clyburn have been the top 3 in the Democratic leadership for 20 years. And they have not groomed anyone to be their successor. There have been many people who have come and gone.
See, Democrats aren't groomers.
They are groomers.
That's right. Not at all. There have been many people who have come and gone from the House who wanted to rise in the ranks of the leadership, realized there was nowhere to rise. People like Chris Van Hollen, who just bolted and went to the Senate. This has happened over and over. And the caucus was frankly just upset about it. I mean, they won't say it in public, but the fact that these octogenarians had an iron grip over the caucus for so long, I think was harming, sort of, creating some dissension. And so we have this shift to a new generation. Of course, this was a hand-picked generation. There was no actual, vote among the membership as to who they wanted to serve them. We've known for a couple years, ever since 2018, there was a leadership battle between Jeffries. This is for like the number 5 position in the House leadership. It was between Jeffries and Barbara Lee. And Jeffries ended up getting more votes in that.
Wow.
And he was kind of, from that moment, anointed the successor. There was some talk of Adam Schiff, but that was never going to happen. They were not going to pick a white dude. It just wasn't going to be. And so Jeffries was really anointed in this fashion. And very little scrutiny has been put on his actual record. He has just been handed over the Democratic leadership, which, as we've seen over the last 20 years, is a very critical position. And we don't know much about this guy who's going to be running it.
So do you agree with Mike Duncan that the problem with the Democratic Party is that the octogenarians have health care that is too good, that keeps them alive?
That is a good point. Hadn't thought of it that way.
I mean, what we do know, I don't know much about Jeffries other than like, well, I'm big Zionist, like lots of Israeli lobby money. I know that has like, finger wagged as if he were an octogenarian, like Clyburn, and Pelosi has finger wagged at the left, calling AOC essentially like, oh, you just want to like pose for photos or like be an influencer, basically calling AOC like an influencer. The other thing is like he is kind of unknown. So it's like, yeah, I understand they wouldn't necessarily choose a white guy for whatever optical reason, but like Schiff would be a better choice if you're talking about kind of like someone who's a bit in the public eye, which is both a blessing and a curse in terms of, nationally.
Schiff has his own problems. He was a New Dem going back way back before impeachment was ever a thing. But I'll tell you about Jeffries. And of course, if you read the article in the magazine that you actually appear in, Francesca, you would know
Call me
a little bit about Hakeem Jeffries. In our December 2021 issue.
Oh, yeah.
We did, as everyone knows,
Everyone knows that.
We did an expose into Jeffries. Alex Salmon did it, who's a former staff writer with us. And I can tell you a few things. First of all, he was a corporate lawyer. His mentor was the defense lawyer for ExxonMobil. He worked for a big law firm called Paul Weiss. His biggest maneuver in 2021 was starting a pact with Josh Gottheimer to protect Democratic incumbents from progressive primary challenges.
Right. Yes. This I remember.
That was like the big thing that he did. He has taken $1 million or more from the financial sector, from real estate interests, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Blackstone. A hedge fund was his top donor in 2021.
So real grassroots.
Yeah, this is the guy who it is, right? I mean,
right. Which is part of the job, right? Fundraising. And
absolutely. I mean, that is the job. I mean, that's the way in which you gain the interest and respect of members, a lot of members anyway, of Congress, is by donating to them. And you have to have a lot of money so that you can run your own race, but also donate millions of dollars to everybody else. And usually that's how you rise through the ranks of the leadership in the Democratic Party and in the caucus. That's certainly how Steny Hoyer did it. And that's how Hakeem Jeffries does it.
Do you think that, like, for years, the Republicans have sort of used Nancy Pelosi as like a boogeyman to whip up their base, and like, people are sort of running against Nancy Pelosi all over the country? Do you think that Jeffries will be used in that way as a target, or do you think he'll just be some other?
I can't imagine Republicans using an image of a black man to scare voters. It just does not seem possible to me.
Yeah, they wouldn't. That's not something they would do.
No.
Never ever. Well, let's just talk about, before we move on. Well, I don't know how I want to spin this, but just thoughts on the midterms, because we haven't spoken since the midterms.
Sure.
How significant do you feel like it is that, a party in power in the White House hasn't held on to so many seats in however many decades,
right.
and did? And what do you think it says about Biden's agenda? Like, what does it say about what was accomplished? Are we thanking the Inflation Reduction Act here? Yeah.
Well,
and David, before you answer, just please make sure that whatever your analysis is agrees with what Francesca and I thought before the midterms.
As long as it meets your priors.
Yeah.
I think there are a few things. First of all, this was an unusual election in that the biggest policy change, the thing that broke through to voters, was not accomplished by the party in power. It was actually accomplished by the minority party, and that was the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And so there was a backlash to things that happened over the last 2 years, but it was not done by Democrats. It was that which was pulled off by Republicans. And so that played, a major role. I think the second major role is obviously candidate quality. The fact that you had all these election deniers and January 6 freaks that were running for office. You can see pretty clearly that they got struck down in race after race. The third thing is, which I think is actually very interesting, is that things like the Inflation Reduction Act or the infrastructure bill or the American Rescue Plan did not play a role to a large degree in the election at all. And that's actually an achievement of sorts for Democrats, because what we've seen in the past is that politically, if they pass a major piece of legislation, they feel an immediate backlash from the electorate, the Affordable Care Act being the biggest example of that. But the IRA did not play that way. It did not play in the same fashion. Even though it was certainly a bill that you could talk about in the terms of the Green New Deal, or you can talk about in terms of raising energy prices. It's not entirely true, but you could fashion a response if you're a Republican. They didn't do it. They because this is not really a policy interested or policy driven party anymore. It's a party that's filled with anger about cultural grievances and just sort of demonizes over its various issues. So policy is no longer that as polarizing in an electoral context. And that's actually a good thing for Democrats to know, right? Because when they get back in again and get a majority, they don't have to worry about like the reaction to putting in something that would be better for the country.
I mean, it also means that you shouldn't pass a Green New Deal. You should pass a like long-term debt relief, like a future generation debt relief, like plan or some shit like that. That is nothing, just, but it is about climate change. But it's just about like like life insurance policies. Like, I don't know, think of a fucking name, because the Inflation Reduction Act was not necessarily that. There was all this climate stuff that was snuck in there.
It was hard to demonize. Well, I mean, it was hard on both sides, right? Because throughout, when it was called Build Back Better, it was hard to message to people because it had 50 different things in it.
Right.
When it finally got narrowed down and then got this name that has no bearing on what it actually does, it was also difficult from the other side for Republicans to sort of demonize it because nobody really knows what's in it.
Right. You got to read.
Yeah, exactly.
Read the American Prospect, everybody. Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in investment going towards, you know, transitioning the country to clean energy. And so if that doesn't spur a backlash, that's a pretty good thing. And so, you know, that was successful. Now, parts, I think, of that bill did get demonized within the election context, the biggest one being the funding for the IRS. And I think if anything is going to be gone after that was in the Inflation Reduction Act, it's going to be that $80 billion in funding for the IRS, which they said will unleash 87,000 agents poking into your every bit of your financial life and whatnot. And so that is, I think, now that we know that Republicans have the House, they're going to use a bunch of must-pass bills to create hostage situations to try to, you know, deal with things like that.
Yeah. What is the House? What is the GOP going to do with the House majority? What do they want to accomplish? I mean, you go over this in a recent article, but talk about their aims at Medicare, Social Security, IRS, tax break, and how are they going to do it, which is the next, you know, piece of it.
Yeah. So let's start with the how. So there are just certain things that Congress sort of basically has to pass in order to keep the country functioning. They don't have to pass anything at all except these things, and they can go on their merry way. And given how fractious the Republican caucus is, that's probably all that is happening. One is government spending, right? Keeping the lights on, keeping the government funded. Right now, government funding runs out in December. The expectation is sometime in this lame duck session, they will pass something all the way to the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of September of next year. But at that point, there's appropriations that have to be done. And Republicans can say, we're not passing that until you defund the IRS, for example.
Got it.
Another thing that has to pass is a very stupid thing that I have to now explain called the debt limit. And what is the debt limit? Basically, the government it has a ceiling on how much it is allowed to borrow. That ceiling can be changed by Congress over the years. It has many times. But Republicans have figured out over the last decade that they can say, well, we're not passing that unless you do X, Y, or Z. And X, Y, or Z is usually cut Medicare or cut Social Security. That's usually X, Y, and Z. So
which they did under Obama, right?
Well, they tried to, yes.
Okay.
What they ended up doing is passing something called the sequester, which cut trillions of dollars of not Medicare and Social Security, but everything else.
Got it.
So if Republicans who are in charge of the budget committee have said, we're going to use the debt ceiling as leverage to get what we want. And what's funny is that the Democrats have every ability right now in the lame duck session to say, okay, the debt ceiling is now $20 kajillion. That's how much we're allowed to borrow. We can end this for all time, basically. But they have not move to do so. And they can do that with only Democratic votes. They can use reconciliation, which is what they used for the Inflation Reduction Act.
Right.
They have not moved to do so, and it doesn't look like they will move to do so.
Just give Manchin another Maserati, please. Give him 3. Give him another little boat.
He is the weak link there, as you might guess.
God.
The thing that's so funny to me about the midterms is like the narrative that that Democrats are like celebrating. It feels like only Democrats can do this. Like, yay, we won less, we lost less than we had planned to lose.
Yep.
Like,
That's a win for the Dems.
Yeah, we're only 5 feet under instead of 10 feet under.
It's like the U.S. men's soccer team. Like, we tied.
Yeah.
That's something.
That's a win for the, not throwing that much shade. But I do think you just, like, it sounds, it's all, couched in all this whatever, like, bureaucratic legislative stuff. But what we just talked about was letting rich people continue to get away with tax schemes.
Right.
And effectively, when you defund the IRS, or they go after middle class and poor folks, because they don't have the money to go after people who actually have accountants and et cetera. And then you just talked about, taking healthcare and retirement funds and Social Security away from average Americans. Like, that is their agenda. In addition to, we didn't even talk about, are they gonna make Hunter Biden a thing? Is that happening?
Yeah, I mean, that is outside of what we're talking about leverage and hostage-taking situations. That's pretty much the only thing they're going to be doing, which is all of these investigations about Hunter Biden or about various federal agencies that they decide are, I don't know, facilitating turning high school classrooms into kitty litter places, or whatever it is. There are going to be tons of investigations of the Biden administration. That's going to be the main work product of the next 2 years. But other than that, if to the extent that they're going to pass any of their ideological agenda, it's like you said, it's going to be allowing the rich to keep money from the government. It's going to be cutting healthcare. It's going to be cutting retirement. And it's going to be trying to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. The Trump tax cuts actually expire in 2025 for individuals. Corporations, those were made permanent a long time ago. But for individuals, that expires in 2025. And they're going to try to use this leverage to make those individual tax cuts on the rich permanent.
One of those, by the way, is you can completely write off a private jet, the entire cost. I want everyone to know that. It might have sunsetted earlier than the rest of them, but that was in the fucking Trump tax cuts, writing off like a $60 million jet. Anyway, okay, so what can Democrats do in this time if they so choose? What are the openings for them?
I mean, I don't know if there are a lot of openings, but certainly they're going to be able to build a record. As this is what happens when you have divided government. They're going to try to get their priorities through. Maybe it's this for that. I'm a little worried that money for Ukraine is going to be seen as so important that you can trade away other priorities. As we know, the Republicans coming in have said they don't want necessarily to give a blank check to more billions and billions of dollars for Ukraine. This is a big priority of the Biden White House. Is it going to be a situation where, we'll extend your tax cuts if you give us that money for Ukraine? Or maybe it's money for COVID. Maybe that's.
Well, they already axed that stuff, I thought.
Well, but I mean, there's obviously an ongoing need. So
right. Sorry, I meant Republicans already axed.
Republicans
more
have said
money
no
for
to
COVID.
that, but they, there are going to be these compromises that are going to be attempted to be struck. And so, and anytime a compromise happens in Washington, watch your wallet. It's usually the good idea here. So, we're going to have to look out for that.
The other person who actually says we shouldn't give a blank check to the military in Ukraine is Ilhan Omar, and but we don't get. We don't talk about that.
That's what's interesting, right? Is that there are going to be opportunities for transpartisan coalitions on those kinds of issues, whether it's big tech,
Right.
and trying to rein in their power, whether it's surveillance reform. There are certain measures of the USA Freedom Act that expire at the end of December 2023. We have seen in the past libertarians and civil libertarians from the left and right get together to try to block the extension of things like warrantless surveillance. We could see that on Ukraine, on Yemen policy, trying to stop money from flowing to the Saudis to continue to prosecute that war in Yemen. There are opportunities that you will see between the left and the right to try to, block the initiatives of the center.
Right. But then you have now the new House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy.
Maybe. I think that's a 50-50 bet.
Has he not actually just been voted in?
No, he's been voted the leader of the Republican caucus. However, he didn't need all 218 votes to get that. He got 180, I believe, something like that. In order to become speaker, you need 218 votes. And
I see.
he don't have them right now.
I see.
He needs to get them before January 3rd. And if he doesn't get them, I don't know. We haven't seen a situation like this
before January 3rd. And you don't think they're all going to fall in line?
No, I mean, several members have already said they're not voting for him.
They're gunning for it too. Thank you for clarifying that. Well, here's Kevin McCarthy. This is what he's saying. I mean, I agree in terms of some of these seemingly disparate factions, but Republicans and Democrats could come together in the House. Here's what he's saying about someone like Ilhan Omar. This is Kevin McCarthy speaking with the Republican Jewish...
The Jews.
The Republican Jews. What is the actual Paige, the producer? Was the Republican Jewish Coalition. Thank you. Yeah.
I made another promise to you last time. There was this congresswoman, Ilhan Omar. That's a rightful boo. I remember what she said about me. I remember what she said about Israel. Remember what she said about the relationship. I remember it so much, I promised you last year that as Speaker, she no longer would be on foreign affairs. And I'm keeping that promise now.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. So this is the same kind of blaming Ilhan Omar and her critiques of the Israeli lobby as somehow anti-Semitic again and again as Republicans cozy up to a far right Israeli lobby. Yeah, I mean, you I wish we could Republicans are they talk a big talk about we're isolationists, but then Dems actually put stuff up like, hey, let's stop funding Saudi Arabia and their war on Yemen, and Republicans are like, wow.
But what he said there specifically is he's going to pull Omar off of the committee.
Yes.
And he's also said that he's going to pull Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff off the Intelligence Committee. And this is sort of now an escalation of what Democrats did when they pulled Marjorie Taylor Greene and I believe Paul Gosar off of their committees. And so this is now going to be normalized where every cycle, whoever's in power, the perceived crazies on the other side are just not going to be able to sit on committees. And I don't know where that ends, but this is an escalation of that.
And the speaker can just yank people from committees?
It was unprecedented until Pelosi did it, until it was done by a vote of well,
there Congress. You go. Okay, yeah. Right. I mean, like Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments and Gosar, they're both white nationalists. Gosar is a straight up Nazi. Those were also unprecedented in terms of helping the January 6th insurrection, etc.
Wasn't Gosar the demon in Ghostbusters?
Also that. Very much so. Marjorie Taylor Greene was the state puff underneath that when you melted it down.
By the way.
It was Gozer?
Yes.
Okay.
Not Gosar.
It was Gozer.
I mean, come on.
Close enough. It's really whether you're using the Sumerian or the another thing that I can't think of pronunciation.
That's true. I'm Ashkenazi, so that makes sense.
David, one last thing is I know you're working on a big piece about lithium mining in the United States. And actually, our producer Paige also wrote something recently for the New Republic, right? Or in these times. God damn it, Paige, I'm an asshole.
In these times, she says.
In these times about about lithium mining, and specifically how the Inflation Reduction Act might have energy companies setting their sights on the Salton Sea, which is in California, Southern California, and it's like drying up and it's like super toxic, but there's lithium. Can you just like explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm I'm right now in Palm Springs, about an hour from the Salton Sea. So I went out there in October. As you say, it's about 45 miles of lake bed has been already exposed. There's kind of naturally the Salton Sea kind of ebbs and flows over the centuries. Right now, we're in a cycle where it's receding. The problem is, for the last 100 years, nitrates and chemicals from agricultural activities in Imperial County have flowed into the sea. That has been its source of water for the last 100 years. And so 100 years of chemicals now are exposed on this lake bed. When they jump into the atmosphere, they hit the lungs of people who live in that area. Child asthma rates are double the normal rate in California. It's a very depressed community. And they've kind of been looking for saviors for decades in Imperial County. And now they've found a new savior, and it's called lithium. So in an underground reservoir, which has nothing to do with the Salton Sea itself, it's actually under the sea. There's this reservoir that has probably the largest unrecovered deposit of lithium in the world.
Wow.
And lithium obviously is a main component of lithium ion batteries, which are used in electric vehicles and are a major thing that we need to get. The normal ways of extracting lithium are some of the most toxic in human history. There's hard rock mining, which the EPA has said is the most toxic industry in the United States. And there's this thing called evaporation pit mining, where they literally they dig a big hole. It's got this brine in it. And they let it evaporate for 2 years after they fill it with water, and then they can pull the lithium out. It takes 2 million gallons of water to extract 2 million metric tons of water to extract 1 ton of lithium.
Oh my God.
This is done primarily in the Atacama Desert of the Lithium Triangle in South America, which is a desert. And they're using that much water in order to do it.
Right? In Chile and Peru?
Chile and Argentina and Bolivia, I believe.
Yes, that's
so, anyway.
Fun. I mean,
what's being done in the Salton Sea, however, has the potential to be transformative. And the reason is that the Salton Sea area already uses what is called geothermal energy. So what they do is they go into this reservoir, they pull out the brine. It's super hot. It's like 500 degrees. They put it into a separator. The steam is pulled out, and it drives a turbine that creates energy. It's renewable energy, geothermal energy.
This is not what's underneath, which is the lithium.
That is what's underneath.
Oh,
okay. The brine that has the lithium in it.
Brine.
Now, normally what they would do is re-inject the brine back in, and then they pull it out, re-inject it in, pull out the steam, and create energy that way. However, if they do an extra step and say, before we re-inject this brine, we'll pull the lithium out, then they can do it in the only known sustainable way in the world, right? So the problem is this has only been done in a lab. So it hasn't ever been done at scale. There are 3 companies who are trying to do direct lithium extraction through the geothermal in the Salton Sea. And there have been these promised benefits to the community, even though it hasn't been done yet.
That doesn't use the fresh water. So you're saying there could be like a really
there's very little water use. There's not a lot of water use.
So we have two roads. One could be horribly contaminating and use a bunch of fresh water, and the other could be like a huge like green game changer.
Exactly.
Getting the lithium batteries.
And what's happening at the Salton Sea is the green game changer. That's what they're trying to do.
Got it.
However, it's not 100%. There's questions as to whether the community will actually benefit from this, or whether it will just create a lot more industrial noise and expansion. And the other question is, I talked to a researcher who said, well, you know, if you want to maximize lithium extraction in the Salton Sea, you really need the sea to recede more so they can put more plants in different parts of the exposed parts of the sea. I'm like, isn't that horrible? Like, isn't that exactly what will create more exposed lake bed and more asthma dust going off into the areas? Like, Jesus. Oh, well, yeah, sure, you need a balance. So there is the question of sort of the balance between new industrial activity in this area and environmental protection. But all of that is discussed in this story, which is coming out, I think, in a week and a half or so.
So after you brine the lithium, isn't there a risk that the gravy that comes out is too salty?
Yeah.
Salt is actually an interesting part of it. You know, the Salton Sea, which salt is right there in the name,
damn it, Nato.
is twice as salty as the ocean.
Ooh.
Oh.
It's really like so this ecological disaster that has happened. I have been there, and
a culinary wonder.
You see these balls sort of up on the shore. And you're not sure exactly what they are.
And
it turns out they are dead fish. That because the oxygen is slowly going away, you get these algal blooms in the sea. And that deoxidization essentially turns fish into desiccated spheres. It's a gross place. It has a rotten egg smell. It's really a fascinating little bit of
welcome
Americana.
To California. This is Gavin's home.
He's called it the Saudi Arabia of lithium.
Oh God, Gavin, no. Well, I'm fascinated. Everyone read the article. We'll see TBD. Can we just get like a high-speed light rail before we fucking dig up an entire seabed? Thanks. One question actually someone asked, Hippie Spot was saying, is it naturally occurring lithium, or is it because of all the years of disgusting like agricultural runnot that it just created?
It is natural, because this is miles under the ground. I mean, lithium is pretty abundant around the world, but this is an untapped source.
Okay.
And it happens to be massive. And if it's done right, and you're re-injecting the brine and constantly replenishing the underground reservoir up and down in the cycle, it can actually work. But
this is
the problem is, the problem is no one has done it beyond, you know, sketching it on a pad so far.
Right. It's like the dude who raised all that Kickstarter money on Kickstarter to clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And then he was like, oh, it was just a model. Exactly. I don't actually know how to do that. Everyone was like, what the fuck? Like, what if an amoeba ate garbage? Oh, that was just an idea.
This is slightly more advanced than that. I actually went to one of the plants where they're actually trying to do this.
Okay.
But only slightly.
Right. Todd Roy says it sounds like Mordor. Very excited to see the Eye of Sauron in the Salton Sea. David Dayen, thank you for joining us for that segment. I was wondering if you could stay on for our final fun segment.
Okay.
Very fun. Nothing but fun.
Nothing but fun.
Nothing but fun. Given that Elon Musk is, I mean, every day it's like, is this going to be the last day of Twitter? Like, you know, Q, I Will Remember You by Sarah McLachlan. Like, DM all the people that you've, you know, shoot your shot, you know, with the person who follows you. Like Ryan Reynolds follows me on Twitter, and I'm like, what do I say to him? Why? You need a third with Blake Lively? Sorry. No. What is your final tweet if you were to leave? And are you leaving? This is the last tweet. I will say I've never gotten in trouble for tweeting except for once when I was working at AJ Plus, which, by the way, not working there now. And I did make a promise to myself that I would not be working at Al Jazeera when the Qatar World Cup was happening. I was like, as God is my witness, it was 2013. I was like, I will not be working here in 2022, and I'm not. Is it good? No, not necessarily. I need the money, but not working there. And I got in trouble because I said something like, is it bad that I've imagined the elaborate deaths of every Republican leader or something like this? And like my editor was like, you need to probably take that down. And I was like, oh, come on. So my final tweet would be Kavanaugh won't kill himself. There we go. That's it. That's what I want to say.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Francesca. There's never been an assassination of a Supreme Court justice.
Exactly. And look, you guys are the ones pushing us lifetime appointments. What are we supposed to do?
Yep.
Dave, obviously, this is not an endorsement of violence, and everyone here renounces any and all violence, political or otherwise. David, what would your last, or NATO, what would your last tweet be?
Go to NATO.
NATO, what's your last tweet?
My last tweet would be something real stupid, like, does anyone know where I put my keys?
That's good. I like that. Also,
or like Hive Mind, who has a recommendation on a good torta in Sacramento?
I mean,
that's not spicy.
You might as well at the very end use Twitter for the only thing it's good for,
which is
finding
a torta in Sacramento.
Right.
Very good. David, what's your last tweet, or like a tweet you've never sent, but you're like, maybe I should send this?
Well, I mean, I have watched this sort of montage at the end of the after school special nightly parade of I'm gonna miss you guys, and I'm gonna miss you most of all, Scarecrow.
Yeah.
I've looked at this with some amusement. Hold on.
Oh, I know you're getting choked up. It's fine.
I'm a little verklempt. But yeah, I mean, that's something I would never write in my entire life. So probably like a long Oscar speech, a thread with a thank you for everybody who got me through and supported and encouraged my feed over
all
the
the
years.
People on Twitter. Can I just read 3 tweets I never sent? Brett's and Brendan's, only one name can stay. I stand by that. Brett and Brendan, I'm sorry if you're named either of those.
You throw Madison in there too.
No, it's the B's. It's Brandon is okay. Brett's and Brendan's, pick one. I don't want both of you. And I apologize to all the Brett's and Brendans who I know and love.
And who paid for this show?
Who paid for the show? I don't know if we have patrons. Another one I have never sent, but I'll tell you guys. I just said, "Don't choke me, choke a choke pop." I think I don't know why. I'm drunk, but I stand by it. Don't choke me. I think it was probably to my husband. Anywho, that's fine. And then the last tweet I've never sent, I want reactionary arms. That I stand by. You know how like all right-wing women have like really cut dope arms, like reactionary arms? You know, it's always like Lara Trump and fucking Judge Jeanine Pirro. Their arms are like, yeah, you know. Maybe if I keep on bouncing and holding the baby.
Isn't the person most associated with that Michelle Obama? Maybe they're just they're trying to be her.
Oh, that's exactly right. That is
exactly because you ain't me.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was at your stage of parenting, I was doing because I had the twins, I was doing curls. I did baby curls.
Oh my God, this baby's head is just like getting, it's going to be the alien, you know, just getting bigger and bigger
it's
and
going
bigger.
Out?
Yeah. She's
not
like,
up, but out?
It's like out.
It sounds like Mayan royalty.
Yes. And then there's like a little bald spot right here because she's sleeping so much. It's very funny. It's a big ass head of a baby. Big-headed baby. Big-headed baby. David Dayen. Everybody follow David on not Twitter, but Twitter. No, follow him on Twitter. He was blocked for a while, and
I'm back.
It was fun to watch him. No, it wasn't.
Well, what's
fun.
funny is I was blocked, and when I came back, they're like, "No, you have to wait to get verified again for like 30 days," and I missed the window. So now, forget it.
Elon must decide. Now it doesn't matter. You just pay $8.
That's true. Good point.
And you're there. Oh, that's right. You're not verified. It doesn't. Well, that's so dumb. Everyone follow Nato Green on all the things. Nato Green on Twitter and Mr. Nato Green on Instagram. Make sure you go get his album, the Whiteness album, as well. Thank you guys so much, David. Take care. And Nato, I will see you in the bonus. We're going to talk about Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice and Jon Stewart. Jon, he might have lost it. He might have. We'll see. But for now, some comments from the Peanut Gallery. Greg, thank you so much for the super chat. Really missed you and so glad you're back. I hope you get some rest. Me too. I am 5 hours intermittent sleep. It is tough. Nug Wrangler on Twitch. I'm on Mastodon now. Instead of tweeting, they call it mastobating. Love it. I have no idea how Mastodon works. I was like, cool, let me go to it. And then I was like, do you want to be part of a group of journalists in Denmark? I'm like, no, I don't. I have no idea what this means. So I don't, if you know how to use it, explain it to me or someone send me a link. Owen Naggles, thank you so much for the super chat. Glad to have you back, Franny. Wish you had more maternity leave, but America is dumb. Much love, Schmoopy Dragon. Oh, Schmoopy Dragon. I wish I had more leave too. It's fine. This is a once a week thing. She can take a bottle and dad can watch her. It's chill. Who Vian Scarf Dragon? All right. Your last tweet. Elon likes the taste of alpaca semen. See, I started this because I like that. I don't know why. Alpaca semen, that works. Rachel Atwood says, Nato has really pretty eyes. Thank you. I picked them out myself for Nato. Fun P, thanks for the super chat. Congratulations. You look happy, healthy, and beautiful as always. From your number one drunk fan from your Portland show. Oh, bro, is that you? The one who was like falling out of his chair in the front, or like one of the front rows? Oh, no. Or who almost fell down the stairs. That's what it was. What's up, Fun P? Thanks for the super chat. We can drink together next time. Raul Davila, thank you so much for the super chat. Congrats on the new baby. Thank you. The Jukester said, I've said fuck crypto many times. Me too. Todd Roy, glad the show is back. Thank you, Todd, for your super chat and for being an awesome moderator. Gary Cooper, the Colorado Springs shooter was arrested a year ago for holding his mother hostage with a homemade bomb, yet was still allowed to buy and possess guns and ammo. That's America for you. How many times? Domestic violence and perpetrators of it, people who threaten their families, like how many times do we have to go through this exact same fucking playbook? They should not be allowed to own guns. Let's see. I'm reading some of that. Jeff Curry says, I'm jealous of Nancy's ice cream hoard. Me too. Very much me too. Thank you so much, Fun P. Another super chat. Charmed Chaos says, lithium is usually found in toxic environments. Preach, David. Taryn says, I bartended in an LGBTQ plus bar for nearly 10 years. It is really like having a family. I can only imagine. I mean, it's like bartending and wait staffing and being a waiter generally is like, you just get very tight with the people who are working those shifts with you and these like awful late night shifts. But inside of a community like the LGBTQ plus community, I can only imagine how incredible that is, and how awful when something like this happens. Alex Samara says, my final tweet is probably going to be something inane, like a quote tweet that simply says thread, or something that's just like quote tweet this. Hell yeah, this. And with that, you guys, we have a little bit of a fart song. Let's start it off. We don't have any new patrons at $10 or more. That's so sad. But shout out once again to Jill Hurst, who became part of the Horchata Armada, and to the big tipper, TBR-Live on Venmo, Jonathan Cook. Thank you so much for your tip. To the Twitch subs, Lightly Toasted Dragon, Workers Dragon, and Willie Gus for cheering 100 bits. Fat guy named Tiny for resubscribing at tier 1 for 18 months. A year and a half. I'm sorry you had to put up with me for that long, Franny. No. I love it. And then Love and Lee for subscribing with Prime. Thank you. Hippie Spot for resubscribing with Prime. Saying, big love, mamas, be strong. I'm sending you big long distance energy hugs for restoring your energy and keeping your cups filled. Thank you. And the Jukesters, thank you so much for resubscribing at tier 1 for 2 months. Woohoo! Welcome back with a lot of cat emojis. Thank y'all. Oh no, you guys couldn't hear the fart song. That's okay. I'll add it in post. Imagine all the farts we're playing in your head. I'm not going to do it again, guys. I'm tired. I got to go. We got to do the bonus. I'll see you there, Frantifa. And until next week, we got a great rest of the year. But until next week, you guys, remember, fight the power. Fuck the patriarchy. And don't just bitch about it.